what's the first thing that springs to mind when you hear the word shonen? I imagine something like... or maybe... Perhaps if you're an elder otaku, it's more along the lines of... or... Or it could be any of these. To me, though, the single moment most emblematic of everything shonen manga and anime can be is...
I'll take a potato chip and eat it.
Shonen manga isn't a genre at all. It's a demographic. Comics for boys, just like seinen is for young men, and josei and shoujo are for women and girls. If a manga can satisfy that target shonen audience, which these days includes like 50% adults and even quite a few girls who just enjoy the shonen vibe, it can be about anything, any genre, any subject matter, any age or gender of protagonist, so long as it's got the right spirit. With compelling enough art and a proper dramatic framing, a high school senior eating a chip can be a raw moment of pure adrenaline that speaks directly to the soul of youth. That is shonen. I have spent countless hours on this channel talking about battle shonen and the battles therein, for good reason. Aoi Todo is a god. Today, though, I want to highlight some of the best parts of the other side. But first, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Factor. One of the best things about life in Japan is the convenience stores, where in addition to new volumes of Jump, you can buy cheap, fresh, ready-made meals to heat up in a couple minutes, eat, and get on with your day. There's nothing quite like it in North America, but Factor might just be even more convenient and healthier to boot, albeit it does not come with issues of Jump. Factor ships chef-crafted, dietitian-approved, never-frozen meals straight to your door for an affordable price, on a flexible schedule with a menu of over 35 items to choose from each week, including options tailored to keto and vegan diets. Plus, they offer over 60 weekly add-ons like snacks, on-the-go lunches, breakfasts, and smoothies to keep you fueled and feeling good all day long. Oh boy, all this Factor talk has me craving some of their creamy lemon pepper chicken, which I tragically can't get my hands on, but let's ask editor Trey how they like theirs.
It's good.
You heard him, folks. To make your meals more convenient than a konbini, just head to factor75.com or click the link in the doobly-doo and use code MB50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's code MB50 at factor75.com for 50% off your first box plus 20% off the next month of orders. A deal so nice, they make me say it twice. While we're on the
Potato chip
scene, the genre it represents, non-battle battle anime and manga, is probably the best place to start easing action-addicted shonen bros into this video's whole concept. Though I won't be focusing too much on Death Note or Oba and Obata's other trope-naming non-battle battle manga about making manga, Bakuman, because I don't want to just rehash Super Eye Patch Wolf's excellent video on the subject. I do really want to highlight more of Obata's art though, and thankfully he recently started another manga with a different writer that'll let me do just that in just a sec after I make sure we're all on the same page. Non-battle battle series work on essentially the same principle as regular battle anime and manga, at least the ones with crazy superpowers and power systems that complicate the otherwise simple process of two guys hitting each other until one of them stops stops moving. A lot of shonen battle anime runtime is spent simply explaining and demonstrating exactly how those powers and systems work.
Bungee gum contains the properties of both rubber and gum, you see.
And if you replace those parts of the formula with explanations of how any hobby, art form, sport, or magic book that kills people works instead, along with the criteria by which that subject can be judged in a competitive format and or a hypothetical court of law, then you can start building conflicts and set pieces around the stages of that competition and or criminal investigation. It's a fantastic subgenre for getting kids into new hobbies, or selling them toys for that matter, because with the right approach, any contest of wit or skill with formalized judging standards can become a non-battle battle, be it absurdly fashionable board gaming or, indeed, fashion itself. A couple years back, I made a whole video about this hot-blooded shonen clothing design anime called Smile Down the Runway that is way more hype than you would expect. Though, admittedly, if you don't have an eye for fashion already, it would take way more time than I've got in this video to explain why this is hype. You can fit any activity into a non-battle battle framework, but it helps a lot if the topic is something universally relatable, where figuring out who won the fight is as intuitive as looking at two bloodied up muscle men and observing which one is still standing with most of his organs still in. That's why Food Wars works so well. Everyone already knows what good food looks and tastes like, and even if you can't imagine the specific flavor profile of a specific gourmet dish, the anime can just compare it to sex.
Each time I bite down, the savory juices from the slow-cooked bacon overflow to every corner of my mouth.
Food Wars' forebearer, the baking non-battler Yakitate Japan, took a similar approach to explaining the taste of bread with a different universal feeling, one that the shonen target audience probably spends a bit less time imagining, but has way more actual experience with: laughter, using elaborate puns and pop culture references to convey the astounding accomplishments and light, fluffy flavor of folding croissant dough 1,000 times over like forged Japanese steel.
お口の中をくるりと回る軽やかな食感。作った人間にとっては小さな一個のクロワッサンだが、パン業界にとっては偉大な一歩となる。
Just one of many baking techniques that Azuma Kazuma uses his shonen superpower of slightly warmer than usual hands to develop in his lifelong quest to find the ultimate authentically Japanese bread. It's one of my personal all-time favorite anime and manga, though I will admit some of the puns might be a little too elaborate and authentically Japanese for Western palates. But that's not a problem for the aforementioned Obata manga that I'm using Yakitate to create this elaborate segue back into, Showa Shoten, which cuts out the middleman to craft non-battle battles where comedy itself is the weapon. Written by novelist and ex-comedian Akinari Asakura, based on his own experience competing in the real-world M1 Koshien and M1 Grand Prix comedy contests, this manga offers a rare and unique peek into the world of manzai, a distinctly Japanese style of two-man stand-up comedy that sadly you can't really properly experience without learning Japanese, but still is funny even if you don't speak it, as long as it's properly translated. The series does spend quite a bit of time teaching readers about the psychological nuances of competitive manzai and the process that goes into crafting jokes and skits, but you don't actually need that context to understand who's winning a given tournament, because Asakura and Obata are just really fucking good at being really fucking funny. So you know how hard a bit is hitting or bombing, because you're laughing right at it alongside the audience.
That's actually hilarious.
Beyond being hilarious, though, this series bears the mark of a truly great tournament manga, where all the competitors seem like viable contenders, and each one gives you a uniquely compelling reason to root for them. Even a few of the delightfully hateable heels. Stories like this that decouple battle tropes from all that flashy action can really help you appreciate just how much good writing contributes to the hype factor. But this video is supposed to be about how there's more to shonen than battles, so instead of the hype, let's focus back in on the funny and the shonen genre that actually reigns supreme above all others. That's right, I believe in Gag Manga Supremacy.
Hey Goku, be careful! That girl's the one who sent Vegeta flying through the wall!
If you know anything about shonen beyond the battle aspect, then you know that gag characters can kick battle characters' asses up and down the block, but you might not have actually watched or especially read many gag series, and that's a crying shame because they often contain some of the most interesting commentary on shonen by shonen artists, not to mention some of the medium's boldest boundary pushing. Though it does make sense why they're not as popular in the West. Humor is rooted in cultural context. We were just talking about how hard it is to localize all those yakitate Japons. Generally, the only gag series that really take off in English are the ones with easy meme potential, like or Azumanga Daioh.
How are you? Fine, thank you.
Oh my god!
I wish I were a bird.
The ones with absolutely insane anime adaptations like Nichijou.
飛ばすぜすかした言葉を
今日は風がきらめいてやがるな。
これだ
Trey, that's Nichi Bros. Thanks. And of course, there's the ones that luck into truly phenomenal dubs that can bridge that culture gap, like The Disastrous Life of Saiki K. Though in that case, there's not that much of a gap to bridge, since it's mostly about the entirely universal truth that high school is a painfully awkward place full of painfully awkward people, made all the more evident when you can read their minds.
Goodbye, Psyche.
Goodbye, Yumehara. I'm sure another guy will come along soon, so...
Want to share my umbrella?
But the rain stopped.
Not the rain of tears falling inside your heart.
This boy, I just met my soulmate.
Okay, that's a little too soon.
Gag series that spoof specific aspects of Japanese culture tend to be less accessible, but if you are hopelessly lost in the otaku sauce, that makes them all the more rewarding. For instance, you kinda need to know the character dynamics of Doraemon, where Nobita is inexplicably friends with these two assholes who bully him all the time, to fully appreciate how Me and Roboco subverts that by making Bondo's pals, Motsuo and Gachi Gorilla, just aggressively nice and supportive, to the point it's a little uncomfortable. That doesn't mean you won't laugh at the joke or the whole central conceit that Bondo's new order-made Roboco is obviously some kind of advanced combat android posing very unconvincingly as a domestic servant.
ヒントはお米と卵とケチャップを使った「お」から始まる料理だぞ。
オムライス。
ブッブー、外れ。正解は「お」。そうだめち。
But it definitely helps to know some of the tropes, what omurice looks like, and what Bondo's mom means when she rates what he might be doing in his room with a girl on a scale from Ayakashi Triangle to To Love Rude Darkness. It's a fine comedy blend, steeped deeply in Japanese culture, and the more of that culture you know, especially anime and manga, and especially the shonen stuff, the funnier it'll be. If you don't get at least half of these volume covers, you should probably go level up a bit before attempting Roboco, is what I'm saying. But once you do, you will love it. Now, Dr. Slump is one of the rare exceptions to this principle. While the humor does definitely tap deeply into the 70s pop culture zeitgeist, Toriyama's is likely to reference Superman and Star Wars as he is Ultraman and Godzilla, so it mostly hits wherever you're coming from, and whenever for that matter, considering how much kids love those characters even today. I don't think any manga is better at pulling you into into that playful, youthful headspace of laughing at butts and poop, regardless of your otaku level. Even that old curmudgeon Miyazaki couldn't resist it. Though, if you do read a lot of shonen manga, you will also appreciate just how much of Toriyama's playful, stylistic flourishes here influenced the entire future of the medium. I glazed Dr. Slump up plenty in my tribute to him though, and I kind of want to move on from gag manga now. Mostly because my arms are getting really tired. I know someone out there is going to want me to talk about Gintama before I do, but that's got battles in it, so I get to proudly carry on the big Anituber tradition of never covering Gintama for at least another week. Though I will say, if you're into comedies about swaggering badasses who are not so secretly dumbasses, you should also check out Cromartie High School, the story of a regular, well-behaved kid trying to reform his scary delinquent high school by setting a good example for all the figurative gorillas around him. Also, one of them's a literal gorilla, and another one's a Freddie Mercury. And then this guy, I mean, do I even have to say it?
Every person in this class, everyone in society at large, probably you yourself have noticed what I'm about to say, you know?
Tell me what's on your mind.
Dude, say it! Come on!
The second button on your uniform's missing.
How embarrassing. I hadn't noticed.
Dude, just say it!
Well, okay, you might have noticed something else about him in that last clip. His voice acting is phenomenal. In fact, putting aside a few unfortunate mid-2000s slurs that get dropped in there, the whole Cromartie High School dub is absolutely top tier. But while we're on the subject of great dubs, delinquents, and school reform, I'd like to finally shift gears to slice of life and give my arms a break with one of the greatest shonen lifes ever sliced. Great teacher Onizuka.
Starting today, I will be your new homeroom teacher, Great Teacher Onizuka, or GTO.
Nowadays, most of the quintessential slice of life anime are stories about 15-year-old girls written for men in their 20s and 30s. But back at the turn of the century, the king of the genre was this story for 15-year-old boys about a man in his 20s using all the grit and wisdom that he gained as the former boss of Japan's most feared motorcycle gang to steer wayward youth down the right path. And maybe, if he plays his cards right, bang some of their moms along the way. His class doesn't make it easy. Their last few teachers ended up in a cult, a psych ward, and the morgue, respectively. But none of them were even half as tough or a quarter as willing to break the law as Onizuka. And more importantly, none of them were willing to actually listen to these kids and meet them where they're at instead of lecturing them on where they ought to be.
Get out of here.
I just want to tell you that this is the most fun night I've ever had!
Oh yeah? Somehow I don't believe you.
Slice of life anime often just provides a much needed, cozy escape from reality, but it can also get us thinking about the real world and our place in it on a deeper level, and GTO truly exemplifies that. It's a deeply profound work that can change the way you look at the world if it grabs you when you're young enough. The height of what shonen can be. Another great example is Akane Banashi, this newish jump manga that follows a spunky, talented young woman named, wait for it, Akane, as she works her way up through the rigid, traditional world of Rakugo, a very old Japanese form of comedic one-man stage play that devoted basement dwellers will remember from my favorite anime of 2016. Though where that was a dense josei period piece, this serves as a more accessible introduction to the art form. At first, Akane Banashi takes a similar non-battle battle approach to Showa Shoten, focusing on competitions for teenage Rakugo hobbyists and the various performance techniques that they each employ to win the audience over. But gradually, as Akane graduates high school and Rakugo goes from her hobby to her career, it transitions to a more introspective character piece, exploring how various performers refine their own distinct arts, which is especially challenging for Akane, since that means moving past what she learned from her father before his career reached reached its premature end. This is a mature, multifaceted story with seriously striking art direction that has something powerful to say to kids and adults alike. That said, if you do just want chill stories about cute girls from your slice of life, Jump has that too. Right now, one of their hottest manga, which somehow stayed hot despite going on hiatus almost immediately after it started, is Ruri Dragon, a coming-of-age tale about a plucky, pubescent girl making new friends and discovering things she never knew about herself and her body. Specifically, the half of herself that is a dragon on her absentee dad's side, which is causing her to go through slightly more changes than most of her peers. I don't want to dwell too long on this one though, because A, there are only a few chapters to dwell on so far, and B, I'm not entirely convinced that the slow rollout of Ruri's dragon traits isn't some sort of stealth setup for a battle-oriented power system. I mean, it hasn't been anything other than a poignant and adorable school comedy with great characters so far, but I don't know, man. Masaoki Shindo is suspiciously great at drawing fire and lightning blasts for a man who claims to only be interested in cute girls doing cute things. To be clear, there is precedent for that sort of thing, in Jump even. Yu Yu Hakusho spent like 2 entire volumes telling slice of life or slice of death stories before the fighting even started. Stuff like a sad ghost girl getting over her asshole ex, or this friendly tanuki comforting a dying old man, which adds texture to Yusuke's character and fleshes out the spirit world as more than just a setting for supernatural action. Though sadly, most of that was cut from the anime adaptation because I guess they assumed audiences wanted to get to the fighty bits quicker. Luckily, the shonen audience does seem to be coming around on that lately. I mean, Mob Psycho 100 was basically the inverse of Yu Yu Hakusho, a slice of life with occasional ghost fighting bits, and everyone who watched that adored it. And more recently, I've seen quite a few folks lamenting that Kaiju number 8 turned into My Hero Academia with way bigger villains and a moderately bigger Deku, instead of exploring the much more unique concept of a Kaiju cleanup crew's day-to-day work life. 安心しろ。表面だけだ。I'm still enjoying what we got, don't get me wrong, but as a big-time fan of stories about made-up jobs like Planetes, drifting dragons, and plastic memories, it does bum me out a bit that those seem to be the exclusive domain of seinen nowadays, especially since one of the OG made-up jobs anime, Patlabor, started in Weekly Shonen Sunday. Well, I guess technically, cop isn't a made-up job, even if the job description is mostly lies, but Giant Robot Cops is just made up enough to qualify in my eyes, and the series does quite a bit of fascinating world building around the concept of mecha being used in industries like construction, and also crimes, hence the need for Giant Robot Cops. Now, I will cop to it. Being a cop show, Patlabor does naturally involve a little bit of action, but rest assured, it's less giant robot battles and more drunken bipedal car chases. Okay, I don't want to lie to you. There are some pretty sick robot fights in there, but the vast majority of the story is spent watching the characters just work and goof around with their buds and or pontificate on the meaning of life and the role of police in society for good and ill if you're watching the Mamoru Oshii directed movies, which get pretty heavy in the best way possible. But overall, the movie and TV timelines are both fun police procedurals brimming with laughs and jaw-dropping mechanical animation. If you've ever wanted to see a mecha chassis get thoroughly washed and buffed in the Tokyo afternoon sun, this is the anime for you. It's a whole vibe. Speaking of vibes, you might be surprised to learn that romance, the most vibes-based anime genre, is not the exclusive domain of shoujo. I'm not just talking about harems either, though many of those, like quintessential quintuplets and toradora, also contain much sweeter, more doki doki vibes than you might expect. Yes, toradora is a harem, one guy, 3 love interests, I don't make the rules. And of course, the 100 girlfriends who really love you has basically every anime and manga out there beat for its quantity and quality of romance. I've already talked about harems quite enough in other videos though. Well, not enough. I'm definitely gonna do it again. But the point of this video is to expand your understanding of what shonen can be, and I'm pretty sure we all know it can be insanely horny already. What you might not realize is how tender and emotional it can be as well. Some of the most beloved love stories out there got their starts in shonen magazines, like Komi Can't Communicate, Maison Ikoku, The Dangers in My Heart, Call of the Night, and Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. Well, okay, the horny bits of those might have given them away. You might not even know that Nagatoro has non-horny bits, but don't judge that book by its cover. It is far sweeter than it gets credit for. And even if you are a cover judger, you'd probably never have clocked Your Lie in April as a shonen, what with them soft colors and over-defined lips. The male protagonist might have clued you in after you started watching it, but even that's not always a dead giveaway. Love stories with female leads and exceedingly pretty male love interests like Horimiya and Romantic Killer can be shonen too. And even ones with no guys involved whatsoever, like Bloom Into You, which is hailed by many as the cream of the Yuri crop. These are anime you might even recommend to someone looking for a good shoujo.
Geoff, no, you can't say that. You cannot say that. They will quote tweet you, or worse, screen cap you, and you will never hear the end of it.
Yeah. Taking a step back from that minefield, one thing I've enjoyed seeing in recent hetero shonen romances is the way they take the implicitly romantic undertones of shonen rivalry tropes that series like JJK can only hint very strongly at, and just make that subtext text. For the most part, the lovebirds in these things aren't direct rivals, but rather work in parallel fields. In Smile Down the Runway, for instance, Chiyuki and Ikuto are a model and designer, while in Your Lie in April, Kaori and Kosei are a violinist and pianist. In Baby Steps, Eichan and Natsu are both tennis pros, but they play in different gendered leagues, so they don't actually match up against each other pretty much at all. Still, all these couples inspire and egg each other on by showing excellence in their chosen fields, pursuing and trying to pass each other in turn, which drives them forward and closer together at the same time. Pretty much exactly like Naruto and Sasuke, only the kiss happens at the end. Currently, Shonen Jump has 2 manga running that play on this dynamic. Beat and Motion follows an amateur animator and his favorite indie singer as they struggle against the societal pressures that crush so many artists' dreams. If you create in any field, it will definitely speak to you. Gigguk has a great video on that one that you might have seen already. Then there's Blue Box, which has a gorgeous looking anime due out this fall, and for a hot minute before Kagurabachi hit the scene, was Shonen Jump's best-selling new-gen manga. And as someone who's been reading it since launch, it's easy to see why. The series is about a badminton player named Taiki with a crush on his basketball-loving senpai Chinatsu, who seems like this unreachable dream to him until her parents, who happen to be friends with his parents, leave Japan for work, and she's suddenly gotta move in with them. Quickly, things get complicated as the two are torn between their blossoming feelings and the pursuit of excellence in their chosen sports, plus a few other romantic rivals like Taiki's sassy childhood friend, best girl Hina. And both sides of the story are handled with incredible skill. The soft, fluffy, romantic scenes get your heart fluttering every bit as deftly as the doki dokiest shoujo you know, but whenever it's time to hit the court, the action suddenly leaps off the page with a striking hard-edge style reminiscent of Haikyuu, which more shonen battle enjoyers need to watch, by the way. Just about the only thing that gets me anywhere near as hyped as all the cool shit in this video's intro is and a few other sports shows, but then that's because shonen sports anime is just non-battle battle anime at heart, or just straight up battle anime in some cases. Like Ring ni Kakero is as influential on the battle genre as Dragon Ball, so it kind of feels like cheating to include most of those. But Blue Box devotes the vast majority of its runtime to character, comedy, and drama off the court, only showing enough of most matches to tell you who won, unless they involve some serious interpersonal stuff, and even then, it's pure emotion, not strategy at play. Blue Box is focused squarely on delivering the feels, and boy, does it deliver. Calling it now, this one is a top contender for Anime of the Year. And remember, I also called Freerun. If that dramatic structure sounds appealing to you, or you've already read Blue Box, you might also enjoy one of Jump's most underappreciated battle-free classics, Hikaru no Go. Yes, in accordance with my grand keikaku, it all comes back around to glazing up Takeshi Obata's art some more. This time in conjunction with the brilliant storyboards of Yumi Hotta, who might just be one of the best to ever do it when it comes to writing rivalries. Taking cues from Yu-Gi-Oh!, precocious brat protag Hikaru Shindo finds himself possessed by an ancient spirit obsessed with an ancient game after he stumbles on an artifact owned by his grandpa. Though in this case, while that game is only half as ancient as Duel Monsters, it's actually real. Invented in China 2.5 millennia ago, Go is the oldest, most complex board game known to man. Like, it took 2 full decades after Deep Blue beat Kasparov for AI to master it. Hence why Fujiwara no Sai has been clinging to the mortal realm for 1,000 years since he was executed in his prime, just to play more of it, and also why the manga's so focused on drama and character. You need to be an intermediate player just to understand who's winning in most Go board states, so a story that did focus on strategy would need enough exposition to qualify as a light novel. And a target audience that cries Yap Fest when there's more than 3 speech bubbles in a panel definitely ain't got time for that. Hikaru embodies that impatient shonen attitude when the story first begins, but after his first taste of victory against some kid at the local Go parlor, he warms up to the game and eventually asks Sai to step back so he can start playing and winning with his own growing strength, which leaves the ghost conflicted between his duty as a teacher and his selfish passion for playing, and also seriously confuses that kid from the parlor, Akira Toya, who thought he was the best player of their entire generation. Because of that, he becomes obsessed with beating Hikaru, not knowing that was actually Sai, and Hikaru becomes obsessed in turn with living up to Akira's obsession, pushing both of them to grow as players and people, and basically Hotta-sensei turned a shonen rivalry into a love triangle. And that's just one genius facet of a story that blends the best traits of slice of life and sports anime into a true blue masterpiece about connecting the past to the future. I will warn you, the manga and anime end on a bittersweet, incomplete note due to circumstances behind the scenes, leaving you to guess at what else the authors might have wanted to cover down the line. Yet, thanks to Hotta's masterful writing, that non-ending still manages to feel satisfyingly unsatisfying. And I can only hope that this video will feel the same way when I abruptly cut it off here. There is so much more that I wanted to cover, like Penmaku Cinema, the story of a screenwriter ghost who possesses a young indie director that I guess I'll have to get to in another canceled Jump manga video or something. Or Urusei Yatsura, which I realized was a glaring omission as soon as I finished filming that Gag Manga bit, but sorry, I ain't going back to sweat more for that. And well, I could just keep listing things. Shonen is a bottomless rabbit hole once you break out of the battle bubble, but you, me, and editor Trey only have so much time in our day, so I'll leave you to dig into what I've talked about already and discover more on your own time. I'm Geoff Thew, professional shonen at heart, Naruto running off.